Hello, and welcome everyone to the show that is called Making the Rounds, where we have featured the shortest person on Earth and me, Kelsey Moser. Yeah, so obviously the joke of the Emily height. I still think like the Sven interviews are the ones that I think of the most when I think of height from like 2015. Just because having to hold the mic for him was spectacular.
Also, when he was on, I think I've already said this on the stream before, but when he was on finals, he said that he felt really bad because he didn't want to look like he was talking over me, but they had Sven and then me and then Jat and then Raz. So like for us to talk to each other, I still have to look up like this and he has to look it was very funny. They should have given me a box, honestly. But yeah, you know,
I mean,
it's like I find it really funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's
usually I have a box. Yeah, the only problems with not having a box is stuff like that when it actually makes it actively difficult to talk to people, or in our like regular caster setup, not in the closet, but in the regular setup, there's the monitor that's always in front of me also has player portraits on it, and those don't go away from the overlay even during draft. So I have to look at the confidence monitor to see the draft to comment on it, which is fine. I just need to have a box because otherwise, like my natural height, I can't see over the actual caster desk.
So, if anyone asks, height actually is correlated with your ability to analyze the game, just maybe not for reasons you might think.
Not what you would think. Yeah.
Speaking of analyzing games, you did a lovely TriCast this week.
Did I? Are you sure?
For Energy versus Shopify Rebellion.
Oh, God.
I put in all because I can't watch League live on the weekends anymore. So I was just gonna put all of the games I missed on a spinner at the end of Monday's co-stream to pick a random series to VOD review, and it chose this one. So coincidentally.
I'm sure the stream was actually super happy with it because like whenever there's like a really good series, people say they want you to VOD review it, but they don't actually. But something like what is it, BDS Mad from last week, or like Shopify NRG from this week, people are all over it. Like this is the series that they want you to actually just watch and lose your mind.
Yeah, they basically just want the reactions to ridiculous things on your screen. But
yeah,
overall, I mean, I did find things that I liked in it, I think. So that's fun. I think like it answered some questions about is there early game more coherence with Boogie? And I think the answer is yes. There were a lot of like clearer plans. I think one thing I liked in particular was the setup bought into like getting one grub for 6 on Zyra and contesting the Drake. That was really nice. So there were like some nice things in it. But I think their mid game is still bad. So like Boogie didn't really fix their mid game at all.
No.
So
yeah, I mean it was nice like pre like 8 to 10 minutes, I'd say. Where Kobe and I were like, okay, wow, like Shopify does look like, you know, it's nothing revolutionary, but like you said, they look a lot more coherent in terms of what they want to do. They had a very clear idea of like what they want to go for early. So that was nice to see. I agree that once we got to mid game, it was like both teams like they would make a decision to do a lane assignment, and then they'd be like, oh no, not that one. And then like I remember specifically there was one time where like they ended up having to burn Palafox TP, NRG did, because he was in the wrong position. And then it was immediately followed by, I think, Shopify having to burn someone else's. Like, it was like they would make decisions and then I'd be like, wait, not that. And then they'd like correct it. They'd have to waste something for it. And then we got a whole series of mid-game team fights where someone was engaging, but the rest of the team was not in a position to either follow up. And then the counter engage from the opposing, and it didn't matter like who. It was basically like whoever engaged first lost. and then we had the trading of the Baron for Elder, and at that point Kobe and I were just like losing our minds and just polling chat and talking to chat about what they thought about the game. Because so that was fun. Chat was great. I cannot say I did not have a fun time hanging out. I'm kind of sad that the setup right now is that they just have the TriCast for one game. Just because like I would have enjoyed losing my mind with Kobe and Rafa in the second game as well. Which also became a banger.
Yeah.
That ending of the game was like perfect for what the series was, right? Like you have the burn damage coming through from Karthus after it's very clear that Contrax is like trying to start fights, but he's also Karthus.
Yeah.
So he just ends up dying.
There were actually like the engages were the things that confused me the most, because there were several sequences where I swear if Zazel just like flash autos, it goes well, right?
Yes.
Or something like this.
Yeah.
And then there were also these fights where no one on energy was doing anything, or like they trusted each other too much. This was actually pretty consistent with, because I remember noticing this last year when there was still CLG in spring, was like, oh no, actually it wasn't CLG, it was Golden Guardians, because it was Huhi. But it was like when Huhi would go in, everyone has to go in also. Like it was very easy to kind of like bait engages for them. That was like something I noticed for Golden Guardians. So I don't know if like Huhi and comms is like go or what he does like when he goes in, but everyone is going. Even in sequences where it would have gone like way better if Huhi goes in, stuns, and then they're like kind of kiting forward, or just like kind of keeping space, and it would have been better. And like they had so much range, they can easily not get screwed over by like Zyra, for example. And then it's just okay. Well, I guess that happened. But yeah, that was like the biggest thing that stood out to me, was just like how weird the fights went. Like, cause the macro is whatever. Like, I don't expect good macro from the series, but the fights were kind of unfortunate as well. And and to your point, like Contrax clearly was trying to engage in a lot of sequences, and should not be engaging as Karthus. I remember seeing, because I wasn't home, but I remember seeing someone tweet like good use of Karthus passive or something like that during the games. So,
oh my gosh, I love Contract so much, but I was wondering in that case like why they didn't just pick like a Maokai or something for, so like we said it in draft, so it's, if you listen to the cast, you already know how I felt about that. But like then the burn damage, Kelsey, the burn damage ended up being very key.
Oh yeah, I mean,
of the NRG win. So it's fine.
It got to the point where it like didn't matter what happened in the fight. Karthus pressed R. Yeah. You know, like that was just the way it was. Which, if your team is a train wreck, it's not the worst strategy you can. And you're against a team that doesn't know how to end. Like it's not the worst strategy you can have. So, yeah. Do I think this series was significant in any way to the outcome of the season? No.
No.
I don't think it changes anything for either team, which is why like people wanted us to talk about it, but also I don't know what to say.
I feel so, again, outside of like a better understanding of certain things they want to do early, I feel exactly the same way about these two teams that I did previously. And unless something like really drastic changes, I know people are looking at NRG because we've seen them reach heights that are like way better than what they're performing at right now. But even I think a lot of people narratively like to point to, oh, they had a really slow start, the year that they won. But you could see incremental improvements, and also B, a lot of those like best of ones, and one thing that I think is apparent in best of threes that we kind of said, and I think was it Sven who said it off the top? Basically that you can have volatility within a best of three, but usually the better team's going to win out, right? So even if you have a team dropping a game, the stronger team will prevail in the series. And I feel like that means that there's a lot less room for kind of upsets to happen. And also, we, even with the very little amount of games, I think have a pretty clear idea of who these teams are. And unfortunately, as much as I love the NRG guys and like I know that they're capable of more than this, I'm not sure if it's going to happen at this point. Like I think the team has kind of shown us who they are. Who knows? Maybe this insane win, narrow loss, like almost lost, right? Is the Kickstarter. But I don't see it happening at this point. We'll see. I'd love to be wrong because it'd be way more interesting.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I've always said that like my banger narrative is that they'll sub out Dokla for Surdy, long haul. Yeah. But I think like as much as I don't think Dokla had the greatest series, I don't necessarily think replacing the top laner does anything for this team. Realistically speaking, like there were a lot of times where it felt like Huhi and Dokla were doing like the opposite jobs in fights. But I mean, unfortunately, it was because it was like it felt like Dokla as Kasante should be peeling, and then who he should be looking for flank angles, but it was like frequently the opposite. So, yeah, it was like stuff like that was very weird, but I don't think that means that Dokla was the problem with the team, right? So, yeah, there was just like a lot of crap in that series. But anyway, let's talk about another region because the segue is during me talking about Energy SR. I was saying, well, I need to finish so that you guys can go watch LEC while I was doing my VOD review. And then chat was saying, but we don't want to watch. And this had just been after a day of EDG versus TT and RA versus RNG. And I was like, guys, you watched this, you had fun, you enjoyed it. You don't want to watch G2 Fnatic? And they said, well, it's obvious who's going to win. At least with EDG TT, you can't predict it. So, silly now. They sure look silly, chat. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone thought G2 was going to win that one.
And even in like the final game, I thought G2
yeah. So the question is, why didn't they, Emily? Is it your fault?
What? Why would it be mine? So it's so weird to like. I hate this because I still think ultimately, the G2 will end up winning out. I remember there's like one specific fight. So there's like a topside play where G2 lose. Mm-hmm. It's in game 2. They have topside play. G2 lose the fight. They then have, like, maybe a minute later, they have a good setup around Drake. They are definitely going to be able to get this. And then BB over chases as a top Varus and dies. And this is after, like, earlier in the game, Caps had gotten a triple kill mid. They'd won game 1. And I was like, oh, this is going to be one of those series, huh? Where we're just kind of over chasing people in fights for no reason. There's, like, another fight that I'm thinking of mid where they could have easily just backed off, not in the same game. I think it was in game 4 or 5, where Caps ends up diving onto the other side of the fight, I believe, to try to kill Humanoid. Doesn't get it. And I definitely think especially if you're just going to be posturing around the mid lane and trying to fight, that is where Fnatic are like, yes, please, do it. Because every time I end up seeing them looking really good, it's because they end up winning out in either skirmishes or team fights when the other team should just either not be contesting something because Fnatic is at a stronger point, or Fnatic is set up in a way that kind of invites the team to overchase onto one of their carries, and then they just collapse on you. And I think that happened a lot. A lot of the hallmarks of G2 in terms of how they like to set up in sides, how they like to drag their opponents around the map, didn't always happen. And instead, they kind of tunneled on a lot of fights. And if I had to pinpoint one thing that happened in the series that kind of really helped lead to that Fnatic victory, it would be that.
Yeah, I think, like, to kind of play the, well, it's not all just shit macro and forcing fights in bad situations kind of card. I do think Fnatic did something better than most teams do, which is bait out long range engage and then re-engage. There were several fights, especially game 2, when they had to deal with, like, Maokai ults, stuff like that. They did a really good job of, like, someone would walk forward, G2 would use their disengage tools or their long range engage tools, and then Fnatic would run back and then run back in when they had ults. There are so many teams that just don't do that right now. I swear there's just, like, a lot of games I have to watch where everyone just runs in, drops all their shit, and then what happens, you know? And if you're doing that against a Maokai, that's basically literally impossible to win. So I thought that was, like, well done by Fnatic throughout the series. G2 kind of just all drop all their stuff together. I also think one thing that was done very well by Fnatic was reading, like, basically Razork adapting to, like, what was very predictable from Yike in the early game throughout the series. Like, Yike did kind of similar pathing multiple games where he just went straight top. And at a certain point, you had wards on the bot side of the map just in case he went bot, and then you would go match. And then by the 5th game, Razork was top first. And they kept winning top 2v2s because they would shadow top really well. And Razork also had extremely good engage, good trigger pull. I appreciate that. I don't hate Sejuani in LEC as much as I hate Sejuani in LPL, for example. So, yeah, it worked out pretty well, I think, overall. So there were, like, good things that Fnatic did that they clearly had a good read on. I also think there's, like, a very oversimplified narrative going around that G2 just kind of played ARAM, which I don't necessarily think is true either, because I think that there were several times where like, either BB or Caps would be pushed all the way over topside, and Fnatic would just hard force 2 lanes, like, really, really hard, and G2 didn't react well. So it wasn't just that, like, G2 kept running mid and matching them. I think there was, like, a lot of, like, Fnatic figured out how to play 2 lanes of aggression, which G2 is literally usually the only team that does that, you know, in Europe. So G2 don't have to play against it usually. So it was nice to see that, like, some of those adaptations for Fnatic.
Times also where I thought Fnatic recognized either just they had TP advantage or when they could end up TPing behind G2, if G2 were trying to set up. Like, I'm remembering the specific play on top side. I do not remember which game. But they punished, it wasn't even like an overextension. It was just basically recognizing when they could actually contest a side lane play that I thought was good from Fnatic.
Yeah, I remember talking to Cabra. I don't know if you remember Cabra, Maravilla.
I love Cabra. Yeah.
He still is like really does very well, like live viewing on Spanish scene and stuff like that. He was like messaging me at the start of the split, and I said I actually think Fnatic does a really good job of like doing collapse plays off of 2 lanes of Prio. And then the first couple weeks happened, and I was like, okay, they aren't doing this on purpose. Like, they're just kind of trolling, and it sort of looks like they're doing this on purpose. But this series, it actually felt like they were doing it on purpose. So maybe they were like actually intentionally practicing it, but they're just, you know, League players, and League players cannot like not randomly engage when they see sudden movement in the tall grass. So good times. But yeah, do I expect? Do we still think G2 will win the summer, I guess the season final, whatever it is called? You do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. I probably also think that. I asked the question, but I haven't thought about it too hard. But I do probably think G2 will still win. I think the biggest thing G2 should do is, because their bot lane was still winning, is they should just pivot to playing strong side split map bot again. And then Fnatic won't get the same leads, and G2 will keep map control, and it'll go better. That's kind of how I feel. But hopefully Fnatic can kind of keep contesting them. It would be good if we got to see like good series between these two teams for the rest of the year.
It would be way better if Fnatic continue to level up, because it's just way more interesting, like, and also just better for the region overall, better for G2 overall. If you're looking at them as the team who's still going to make like the most noise internationally, it's really, really good if someone levels up and challenges them domestically, because then they can't get complacent. And I know like G2 have talked a lot about this, about like how they keep their mental is the wrong word for it, but basically like how you can not fall back into bad habits. And I actually don't think they've done a particularly good job of that in summer, but yeah, it would be very nice to see a team really, really be able to contest them in best of 5. So I hope for continue to improve.
Same. All right. Let's get some exciting spice in here, because we basically just said, oh, these series happened and it doesn't matter.
Wait, we did for both series. Also, SK, live update. SK are now 1-1 with Carmine Core, so we're going to game 3.
There you go. So SK Gaming, aka the Dignitas of LEC, are bringing it back.
I'm gonna have to review this series because I didn't watch that. Obviously, I'm on here.
Yep, we will. I will go back and watch. But you know, we get a fun Carmine Corp topic anyway, so
true.
We can live.
Can't wait for that one.
So yeah, it'll be fun. Wow, why is this YouTube just not auto mute? I'm very sad about it. Anyway, so LPL jungle changes. LPL introduced this, so if anyone's wondering, usually LPL doesn't have like a mid-season transfer window where you can transfer players between teams. This is literally the first split where they added mid-season transfers between teams, which is why we're getting so much random things happening, like Wei going from RNG to BLG. And obviously the Loyan change wasn't a team swap. This could have happened anyway, because he was a free agent.
Just vibing, right?
Yeah, he was a free agent,
I mean,
but he's a free agent that comes with like a 2 series ban or punishment.
Yeah. I was about to ask. I was like, how many games is he like required to sit out? Because I know he could not have started this series that literally happened.
It's either 2 series or 2 games. If it's 2 games, it's a little bit better. If it's 2 series, it's pretty bad. So, yeah, enjoyable.
Do people? So for those that are unaware, so it was 2 things, right? He like talked about drugs on stream, and then he also pretended to have sex with a teddy bear.
Yes.
Or something.
Well, he like
pantomimed it.
Kind of. It wasn't like very extreme. He kind of was just like leaning over it, fully clothed. Okay. So.
Yeah, it's sorry when I say this, it actually. Yeah, isn't.
So Loyan, who is the jungler for IG last split and has been jungler for various teams, notably RA and IG, had a big issue where he did a stream where he started talking about how cool drugs are and how awesome drugs are, and also gambling. By the way, gambling was involved.
Okay, all right. So, yeah, that's
and then also like fully clothed, pretended to hump a teddy bear. Obviously, like a lot of people point out the humping the teddy bear because for Westerners that's the weirder thing. But I'm pretty sure the punishment is more because he talked about drugs and gambling. So
yeah,
yeah, because the humping of the teddy bear wasn't even that extreme. It was just whatever. Like it was a big bear. He was kind of leaning over it. It was whatever, you know. Raycop said it was cute. Comically.
Michael, yeah.
Someone said it was cute in my stream chat last night when we were talking about it. So.
Yeah, it was not. So like that's the thing you remember because the visual is hilarious. Yeah. But I agree, it's more likely because he talked about drugs and gambling. But yeah, he was the purported savior of IG last year.
The team still collapsed.
Yeah. Quote unquote savior. And then I mean NIP have so many issues. Like again, we talk about like why you'd make a roster change. NIP are really, really not good right now. And they're in a terrible position. Although I think, wait, let me check. Yeah, so they are 0-6. I was trying to remember if they'd won a game. They've won 1 game. I was trying to think if they were completely defeated, but they're not. They're looking really bad. I think they have a lot of issues that you could have seen coming with some of these players. But to see the full collapse is really sad. I mean, like, Fodic isn't playing well.
Yeah.
Shanji looks really out of sorts. Aki is Aki. When people were like, oh man, this top side is gonna fuck, it's gonna be so good with Shanji, Aki, and Rookie, I was like,
well, now the top side literally fucks.
I guess Leon is coming in. Oh my god, I need to stop using that because I'm trying not to swear on broadcast. It's actually been very difficult. I should really just stop saying that things are fucking. But yeah, like I think this definitely hasn't worked out the way they wanted it to. You could have seeing some of these problems coming just based on the team composition of players. And now it's just really sad because Shanji looks really out of sorts in this meta. Aki is Aki. Rookie, even when he has like a really good game, is not able to kind of drag the rest of everyone over the finish line. And now he's not performing super well or super consistently individually, which makes the entire team look even worse. And I don't think Loyan changes any of that.
No, he doesn't.
Outside of like really doesn't change any of that outside of like maybe a breath of fresh air. Not even because like I can't even look at this team and be like, Aki is the problem, because he's not the problem. They have so many problems. But it's kind of like
problem.
Probably he is one of the
yeah.
But yeah, like I don't think bringing in Loyan is going to change anything outside of maybe sometimes you get that weird boost or like breath of fresh air from just making any change. That's kind of the only way I see it working here, because otherwise like I don't see what Loyan can bring to this team to like help save them.
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways to kind of address this. One is the 6 teams that auto make playoffs are already in. So that's one way to.
Yeah, they have officially qualified at 0-6.
Yeah.
By the way,
so he has time, you know. They've officially qualified at 0-6, so like they have some time to get to a point where they have to play playoffs or they have to do anything, so they can spend a lot of time boot camping. Maybe Loyan's good for vibes, you know. He seems like a funny guy.
Well, he does. He does. I guess.
Unironically.
It's like a goofball.
I don't know. I can definitely imagine vibes are good. I think one problem that NIP had was their map was almost entirely had to be controlled by Rookie in the early game. Rookie was like Aki did not do a very good job of that, and with Rookie struggling, you kind of need someone to help the side lanes because both side lanes are having a hard time as well. And the way that they kind of did it was they worked a lot of lane swap strategy. They played a lot of Talia. They played a lot of those champs, and like in the same vein, it seems like you can pretty much make an IP a non-factor by banning LeBlanc, right? The issue with the jungle swap is just that I think like the problem that we're running into is that the number of junglers who are legitimately good at like the style of jungle that's relevant now is low, because a lot of LPL junglers love playing for lanes and skirmishes and heavy ganking and diving, and very few of them actually farm, which is why Kanavi like seemed to blow everyone's mind in 2020 when he literally just full cleared. But yeah, it's good stuff. So I think that's like a similar problem plaguing BLG, which is like the laners very clearly want a jungler who plays for lanes, and then the jungler is like consistently falling behind. But in fairness, Loyan does play a lot of heavy farming junglers, right? He does play a lot of the carry style, whereas I would say like Aki is like he can kind of play Poppy. He is like Sejuani Rel. He played like a lot of Rel. I actually thought Rel was legitimately his best champion at Spring, so RIP. So I would say that Loyan stylistically fits the meta better. Yes, that is completely 100% accurate. But again, like you're in a position where your side lanes need a lot of help, and usually you get that through heavy rooms and ganks. And if that's going to continue to be a problem for NIP, then having someone who actually farms, right, and controls the map that way, probably won't fix the problems. So, but I just think it's fun. Like it's just funny to talk about because of Loyan.
So. Welcome back, Loyan. What was? Oh my God! It just reminds me of this Hoopu comment about Shun at MSI that I saw like while I was on desk, which was like it had to do with Loyan. I wish I remembered it. It was very funny though. It was basically calling him Budget Loyan. When he played in Italy and like looked like absolute garbage. I think the other thing, like obviously, I feel like everyone wants to talk about Rookie and him falling off and him not being able to essentially push out and help their side lanes and look like this kind of dominant carry threat. I think part of that is meta like adjacent. And then I also think part of it is, especially if you're thinking of Loyan coming in, potentially being more comfortable on like farm heavy AP junglers. What still has to happen is that Rookie still needs to be able to have mid prio. So that'll be something that I'll be watching out for them as well. Because I also just think Shanji and Fodic are really getting bested by their opponents very frequently. And that's also a problem. Shanji's discomfort is something that kind of makes me sad considering like his highs previously. And I think maybe if he was on a different team with fewer problems, they'd be able to kind of bridge that a little bit better, and he'd learn to be more comfortable in this meta maybe. But
yeah, I have no idea. I mean, he's not even like he's basically known for Kasante and Rumble, which are both very strong champions in the meta, but he doesn't even necessarily look that good on them. So it's a little unlucky for them. I think part of it is just, again, like if we're playing like heavily for jungle pressure, whereas enemy team is like going to have a stronger jungle. Like we don't really have any strengths going into team fight phase, and then it becomes an issue. I think it was today, game 1, where people were very convinced NIP would win. And then Rookie got caught out in rotation on bot side, and TS went to Baron and closed out from there. NIP don't even necessarily always have a bad laning phase, but a lot of their team fights and a lot of their map coordination is really bad as well. So I don't know how Loyan fixes that, because some of IG's lane assignments in spring were truly inspired, let's put it that way. I remember the one game where like if you just match Ahri to the Renekton, or just match Ahri to the Kayle. Was it a Kayle or what was it? I can't even remember. It was a Quinn. If you just match Ahri to the Quinn instead of the Renekton, the map is so easy to play, and they just kind of continuously kept matching the Renekton to the Quinn. The Renekton fell further and further behind, and they had no map control. So we'll see. It'll be a series of events, but I mean they aren't the only team with a jungle change, which we kind of hinted at. Yeah. Thoughts on
really done wonders for BLG Macro.
Speaking of BLG Macro,
they're still BLG. I mean, they're like the few things I liked in games 2 and 3 specifically. I think it was game 3 where they just had that bot lane dive and then redive. I'm like, oh, okay, this is like the BLG special, right? Like the 2v2 dives. But that's not anything new. And from my perspective, I don't feel like Wei has necessarily brought anything to the table that Shun wouldn't have, outside of the fact that maybe they have a little bit more confidence in him, and or maybe they don't expect him to play for lanes as much. But I haven't seen a change in, like, for example, again, how Elk and On play bot lane, right? And like I still think some of On's roam timings have been really off. I think they still play like their strong side every single time, regardless, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. I still think that BLG macro currently is essentially like we send Bin to a side lane to try to like do something, and then maybe we're doing something on the map, but also maybe we're not.
Yeah.
Maybe we're just getting caught out in mid for no reason.
Yeah.
So like and this is something that literally happened last night. I believe it was game 1. So like, and then we had the amazing inspired Baron for Dragon trade.
Oh yeah, it was spectacular.
It was
it was their soul.
Yeah.
But so they could have just
their soul point. It wasn't even
okay. But they could have
like,
given it up.
They weren't even on soul point.
Yeah, the point is that they could have given it up either way, right? Like
yeah.
I don't know.
And I was just like, okay, well, like no offense to Wei, but like I don't feel like he's improved BLG macro. It looks pretty the same to me, so
yeah. And if anything, I would say, because you know I'm kind of known as like a Shun doubter, so I would say that Shun plays more of the meta style, or is supposed to, with like the farming junglers, like literally Kindred or the junglers he's allegedly known for. But he's been trained to play like dog champs, like Vi, all these like heavy ganking junglers, and just constantly split map and gank bot over and over again, or whatever. It's very clear that this team is led by laners, like very, very clear, who will want the jungler to play for lane no matter what. My expectation is that Shun kind of like wants to play for jungle lead and wants to play these types of champs and play for himself and play for this kind of lead, is not carrying with it, right? And then so they're like, well, Wei will like play for lane, right? Maybe Bin, because like Wei grew up like just ganking top over and over again. I say grew up, but you know, trained in the ways of gank top over and over again. Ben has played with him before, right? So maybe the thought process is, and then of course, like allegedly RNG was constantly approaching BLG and, you know, trying to sell him. And if you're a good salesman, you also approach the players and be like, yo, you know, like, wouldn't you like to play with Wei again? Like,
yeah, remember when you had that good time?
Yeah.
You
so my expectation is actually like BLG don't want to play what is allegedly good in the meta, even though they will still play those champs, right? But they are like prioritizing Sejuani, which stuff like that. Sejuani is getting banned against them. They don't want to play like the Nidalees and stuff like that. They want to play 4 lane, right? And therefore they want a jungler who plays for lane well. And they think Shun, like my guess is that like they will put it down to stylistic differences, but probably their expectation is that Wei will come in and be happy to just like play like a dog for his laners, and that they'll go back to playing the way that they played, and there won't be an issue. So that's kind of like my extremely speculative take on the situation and what's going on. So
my mind in that game 1 too. I was like, damn. I saw your message way too late. Basically last night Kelsey messaged me. It was I assumed during that game 1. It's like, who has better mid-game macro, NRG, SR, BLG?
Yeah, I messaged her, like, I can't tell. It's really difficult. It's so bad. But yeah, I think the bigger issue is between spring and summer for BLG is 1, jungle meta, and 2, the fact that they aren't winning every single mid matchup. I think that's a bigger issue. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like we have talked about this before on the show, but just like Knight not performing as well is going to make a massive difference.
As surreally perfect In lane phase, at least. Let's put it that way.
His Ari streak was broken since the last time we filmed this, which is kind of sad because that was I don't even think there's a close active player streak, like player champ streak right now.
Yeah, I think the last one was actually Missing Zircon, ironically.
Oh, wow.
That one broke as well in spring.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 24 or something. Really absurd. But yeah, unlucky. I think that it's interesting though to see like GMs kind of play with this new toy in LPL, which is like, oh, player transfers in season, ooh. And sometimes I feel like it's just happening to do it, you know. So
funny that it's junglers because, like,
yeah,
again, we talk a lot about the differences.
The RNG ones are great.
Yeah, LPL overall.
Yeah.
RNG, we had the like. They did not win with Iwandi jungle. I'll say that.
It's just.
But they did win with XDZ in jungle, and then Iwandi back bot, and Tingyuan back in mid. So
I lovingly call RNG the home where all the supports I once respected will go to die. So Ming ran it down all spring. Now Iwandi's running it down. You know, it's only a matter of time before Mako ends up on RNG. Okay. And then we know it's truly over.
Yeah, they need XDZ back on Zach. True.
Yeah, that's the play. Oh, it's fun because it's like the other alternative is that RNG's target audience is literally me, aka people who will just root for rookies anyway, like just indiscriminately, and just be like, yeah, go, you do it in your debut game. And I feel like that audience is just very small and not very lucrative. So,
do you trying to hype up Juice a bit, and then he would like make a mistake, and then he'd be like, "We don't insult rookies here."
Gudju was the one that was really difficult for me to hype up. He made it really hard, but it's okay.
Well, he's apparently out for what is it? Like he said something on stream or something. I don't know.
I can't remember, but yeah, it's a good time. Oh, he's in a suspension for inappropriate speech on stream. So, but and XY I don't know what did okay. I think.
Yeah.
I think XBY actually did better. Maybe. So got that going for us.
He did play the Zach.
Yep. All right. So let's get to the topic that we're all here for, which is didn't he flame the LPL officials? I don't know exactly what he said. I just know he was suspended for inappropriate speech on stream.
Oh, he said casters cheated him out of MVP.
Ooh. Okay. Dang. I'm gonna be really honest. I don't think that happened. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Kelsey calls out Genji for lying.
I don't think I watched a single RNG game where I'm like, yeah, Genji should have gotten MVP. No, that didn't happen. There have been a lot of times where I think certain jungles,
he was
certain LPL players should have gotten MVP. There's definitely times where I felt that way, and I usually disagree, but I don't think there was one where I was like, yeah, Genji should have gotten MVP here. So, yeah.
There's been some pretty egregious ones, I'd say. Mm-hmm. There was one Mako one I remember from their first series, I think, against BLG, where like he just kept hitting Ash arrows and they gave it to him for that. And I was like, yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, the exciting topic, which is, will T1 be at Worlds this year?
Yeah, they will.
You think they will?
I have the boring answer. So obviously, I think because of their recent performance, everyone is like, what's wrong with T1? T1 are in shambles. What's going on? I think it is a combination of a lot of things. For one, I'm not saying this is all of it, but I am going to read off what T1's schedule has been for the past like year. And this does not include like sponsorship obligations. It's basically 2023 LCK spring playoffs, they go to finals, lose. MSI summer playoffs, they go to finals, they lose. 2023 Worlds, they go through the entire tournament, win. They then do this like, this is the one sponsorship obligation I considered because they actually had to fly for it, which is the Red Bull thing that they did in like late December. Then 2024 LCK Spring, 2024 LCK Spring playoffs, they make it to finals, they lose again. Yep. 2024 MSI, they make it pretty far in that tournament, and now we're in 2024 summer, and they also traveled for EWC. So this has been their schedule for a year. I think that burnout is absolutely a part of it. I'm not saying there aren't like meta reasons, but I wanted to preface everything with this has been an absolutely insane schedule, and it's also not including all the other stuff that they do because T1 is so popular. They have a ton of features, content that they have to do, and sponsorship obligations and stuff like that. So I think some of it is absolutely burnout, and if there's a time to have it show up, it's definitely now in the regular season when you can hopefully get over it in time for playoffs. But their schedule has been absolutely brutal for over a year. So I wanted to point that out because you do see some of their players just making some individual mistakes that they wouldn't necessarily make, and I'm not even talking about like mechanical errors because there's those too, but just like random TP decisions and map movements that are a little bit uncharacteristic of some of their players. But then I also think their approach to trying out this meta in combination with that has been not super successful. I don't think they've looked particularly good with, and this isn't me saying like, oh man, Faker can't play AD mids because he's played them before and looked really well, but Faker on Tristana has not been particularly inspiring. Keria, who like came up playing engaged supports and is really well known for like his engaged sense, has not been looking good on them. Putting Guma on stuff like the Ezreal or Kaisa, when I think he is much more comfortable with auto attack AD carries, is another thing. And yeah, like all of this stuff combined with like discomfort in the meta. When I think about what this team really, really loves to do, it's have Faker on something where he can really, really affect their early game and potentially roam to sides, or at least help control mid for owner. And then have like massive pushing winning lanes, right? And especially in a bot 2v2. And that has not necessarily been the meta. I think they kind of should just, even with the meta being what it is, potentially just return to what they're comfortable with instead of trying to force some of this stuff, because I think in particular, Trist Ivern did not work out well for them. Guma Ezreal has not been working out well for them. And yeah, I mean, it makes me sad. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I also think this team will be fine. Like, I do think they'll be one of the teams that makes Worlds, not only because I have like a modicum of faith in them from their past performance, but if I look at the rest of the league, I'm thinking, who is going to be that fourth team for LCK? Like, it's not going to be Kwangdong. They just lost to Brion, which was a series that I thought they would take. So, and it's not going to be KT. It's not going to be Fear X, even though Fear X have now taken out both KT and T1. So, you know, I think it's going to be Genji, HLE, DK, and T1 going to Worlds for LCK. And I really don't see like a Kwangdong or a KT or a Fear X being able to punch up enough that they take that 4th spot. I just don't see it happening. So I don't think we'll have a T1-less Worlds.
So there's this.
Unless, Kelsey, do you believe in Kwangdong?
I'm the worst person to ask that question too. I definitely don't believe in Kwangdong.
Their series with Bro.
I definitely don't believe in Kwangdong. I think maybe the biggest Kwangdong doubter you will ever find. But the T1 is like guilty of one of the most guilty teams of the phenomenon currently going around, which is that poke champs a lot of poke champs are really strong. Disengaged poke comps must be really good, you know? And then they'll pick like Corki, Nidalee, Ezreal, you know, all these champs. They'll just play a lot of poke, and then they go into a fight and they try to kite back and they get hit by a Leona E and one shot by a Brand. And, you know, thanks for playing. It was good. I enjoyed it. Just because a lot of poke champs are good doesn't mean poke comps are good. In fact, poke comps are really hard to play because of the high value of damage that currently exists. And then, like, they end up in this weird kind of... T1 are almost in this, like, weird headspace where it's like, what we need is more disengage. And I see them unironically first pick Braum in the HLE series, and I literally watched it for the first time today, and I messaged Emily, like, they first pick what? What did they first pick? What? What are they first picking? And I couldn't... I don't know what they're doing, is the biggest thing. It's just like...
that you didn't know the legend of Doran.
Oh, no, I knew the legend. I had heard it many times, but I was like... That's why I was like, okay, well, I guess he just is, like, literally just is, does think Doran's a god. Like, there's no other explanation, because I've heard the legend, I know the legend, I watched so many games between Doran and Zeus. I know that that's the meme, but, like, it actually just must be true. There's no other explanation. Why does he play so badly against Doran? I don't understand. It makes no sense. The guy's just living rent-free in his head, like, unironically.
Yeah, he can beat any top laner except for Doran.
I don't understand. Because usually I hate memes like that and think they're completely wrong, but it's like, there's the, like, it makes no sense. We counterpick top, we give him Gnar into Renekton, and he just loses the lane, like, by 50 CS. How? What is happening? I don't know.
Doran's just good, man. No, yeah, he plays weirdly hesitant around Doran. I don't know what it is. I've given up on understanding.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it's definitely one of those.
Andre, he needs therapy.
Like he does at this
to
point.
Get over his fear of Doran.
Do they not have like a fake sports psych or something sitting around to talk to him about this?
T1 sports psychologist needs to
but I do
just hypnotize. Like I don't even know, because Zeus is a better top player than Doran.
I have so there is a phenomenon that is real, because I've definitely seen it happen where a meme or like a narrative becomes popular and the players start to believe it, or it starts to affect them mentally because they think like, oh, okay, well, XYZ must be true, you know? So even if the narrative is not true about them, they'll start to think that way because it's like being regurgitated so much. So, yeah, it could be just a vicious cycle of Doran the god made real in Zeus' head. Yeah. Fun. But yeah, I don't know, like they're kind of doing a lot of, but they did stuff like this in spring as well, where they did like the triple ADC comps and were very obsessed with kiting back. The only team that I've seen like unironically play kite back comps well is TS, but even then their drafts are not that good. So, and then I guess Fnatic a bit yesterday, but they would play kite back and re-engage. So I don't know. I'm not quite sure what T1 are doing. Do I think they'll make Worlds? I think it would be interesting if they didn't, because like it's not like they've never not made Worlds, right? They've definitely not made Worlds before. That's happened in T1's history. So like they could be due. Maybe KT makes Worlds, Emily. You know, dare I say? No KT faith. We're not gonna get anything.
They just lost to Fearx.
You don't think I mean, so did T1.
Yeah, this is true. So that actually though is my main reason. Like not only do I just have like faith in these players more than you know, like I feel like they've earned that, to be quite honest. But also you look at the rest of LCK and you're like, okay, Kwangdong, no. T1, no. Fearx, no. And then Bro, Nongshim, and DRX are even below that. So like it's more of a like who else? Like even if they end up bombing out of spring playoffs somehow and it's not our, you know, predestined date with Genji T1 again. I think you then look at regional qualifier and you're like, okay, who beats T1 in that?
All I'm saying is you're gonna end up with egg on your face when you're.
Well, eat my word.
When
if KT somehow makes it, but I don't see it.
When Pyoshik Deft and Barrel,
especially not after their latest series. One thing I will say though, I did appreciate that KT is doing is that they've somewhat you know, embraced the fact that they just aren't going to play farming AP jungle and they're going to try to get BDD on something that he is more comfortable with, like Azir or Talia. I actually really appreciate that look out of them because that was my main issue with KT is that very similarly BDD did not look comfortable on a lot of these 80 mids and he wasn't having the same effect on the map. And with a jungler like Pyoshik who is going to kind of invade and play like a psychopath a lot of the times anyway, you need mid prio for that a lot of the time or else it just doesn't work. So, but yeah, I don't see KT making it, guys. I don't think they're very good. I think their highest heights are like being thoroughly mid. Yeah, that for this roster, they're mid, which is weird. Can I just go off on a tangent? I really don't have time because I know hard up, but mid being suddenly the worst thing. No, the worst is the worst, guys. Mid is just like you're very mediocre. Like, and yes, it's an insult if you don't want to be mediocre. Like, I don't fucking want to be mediocre, but I'm a mid caster right now. I have to suck it up and get better. Like, mid is not like the worst insult. Being the worst is the worst. I'm just saying.
Well,
I'm tired of seeing mid be perceived as bad when bad is bad. Mid is mid.
It's a very mid take, emilyrand. Anyway,
I'm the queen of mid. You already know this.
No, mid is fine. I mean, I guess like everyone when you're in a competitive industry, everyone strives to be the best, right? So being mid is not acceptable. So I understand why that narrative exists, right? Like, if you're mid, you don't make worlds. That's for a lot of teams, that's not acceptable. So I get why, especially in esports, mid is a big insult. So yeah,
being the worst at least means you're special, but mid, you're just someone. I guess
exactly. Yeah.
Like if you're the worst, people are probably paying attention to you.
See, everyone remembers.
Mediocre, maybe they're not paying as much attention to you.
Everyone remembers Velocity Esports, emilyrand.
I wish I didn't.
Anyway. But
That's
you know what team started T1's roller coaster downfall, right? The split.
What?
KT
KT beating them in that giant thing that they rented out for, for their fan night.
Do you know what the next series T1 plays is?
It is KT, isn't it? God damn.
We're running you back. We're doing it.
They're just gonna lose.
So very appropriately, for some reason, my stream viewers would like us to power rank a very strange collection of teams. But it includes T1 and KT, but also K-Corp and NIP. And Emily is checking her monitor to see what's going on in the SK
right now.
KC
I have
series.
them up over here. And we are almost dead even in gold. Yep. We are 1-1 in games. We are 3-2 in turrets in favor of SK. And we are 2-1 in Drakes in favor of SK. But KC did get 5 grubs. So they have grub advantage. They have the mites. And we're posturing around mid right now. Yeah, as we do.
Indeed.
Jace is in the side lane. Renekton is going to match him.
Nice. Emily, the lengths Emily goes to avoid power rankings. It's actually really spectacular.
It's true. I have so many.
So, what do you got? What's your list?
Oh God. I mean, I feel like as a KT fan, I have to put them last, right?
Oh wow.
Power rank T1, KC, KT, NIP. Who do I actually think are the best of these teams? I still think T1 are the best of these teams. God, NIP are such a dumpster fire though. Wait, okay. There's a team fight happening right now. If Carmine Core win this one, I will.
We're literally deciding our power rankings.
Literally, no one died. We're still just posturing around mid. Yep. Okay, they did not help me. That helped me not. It does look like KC are gonna get vision prio over the Baron at least.
Since KC loves flanking and T1 try to kite back, would KC beat T1? That's the question.
KC beat T1.
Oh no. Shot down. Okay.
I think so. My big thing is, do I want to put KC over KT and NIP?
Well, we already said KC would beat KT the one time. So, you know.
Oh, that's true. So I have to stick with that. So I'm going to go T1-1, KC2, NIP, KT4. Actually, in a series, NIP versus KT. Am I crazy to think that KT might actually take that?
No, I think they would.
If they draft the way that they've been doing.
No, I think
actually think. Yeah. All right, so we'll go in the order we typed it, or in the order you typed it, actually.
Oh wow.
T1, obviously, then Carmine Core, then KT, then NIP.
Wow, what a power
I actually think Carmine Core are gonna win this game. Maybe.
Oh, maybe. Let me see. What is even a draft?
It's Jace, Sedge, Lucian, and Zeri Alistar versus Renekton, Maokai.
I feel like
Bill, who just died.
Kaisa
and Leona.
I feel like topside being like literally all ahead is pretty big. That said, and like Maokai Leona, I think is just gonna wreck team fights. We'll see.
We will see.
We'll see.
They got the pick on Taniski, but
all right.
Well, they should be able to get vision down here anyway.
I will give you mine. All right. I'm gonna put KT in first.
Yeah. Oh my God! Why?
Because I said KT will make worlds over T1, so you know I have to stick with it.
God. Okay.
KT, then I'm gonna put T1.
Already tilted.
You know, you kind of have to. It's just necessary. And then I'll probably do NIP then KC. I think push comes to shove, NIP would still beat KC. Oh my god, KC are winning!
Yeah,
they got the kills. They're
they
beating the Dignitas of Europe. They're so good. Actually, let's see. I feel like KC and NIP are kind of similar. Except that their mid laner is better, and yeah. Ricky's not playing well. Maybe KC would do better than NIP. I don't know. NIP seemed pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. Like, there's almost nothing redeeming going on about NIP. So maybe I put KC and then NIP last. Probably KTT1.
We're united on NIP last.
KC, NIP. It's probably my power ranking.
Unironically,
to curse KT.
Unironically, I think the big thing that has opened up for me, so every week I have to deal with Raz glazing closer. But one thing I don't agree with his closer hype, but one thing I do like that closer has brought to the table is that he's recognized that playing around Vladdy is really good. Mm-hmm. And I actually really like their mid jungle.
Yeah, I was like, what I was thinking is that mid jungle control is like actually way better for KC than NIP.
Yeah, no, that like unironically, I'm like, I don't know, like
because it's like their bot lanes are
might be Aki and Ricky right now.
It's like their bot lanes are like similarly useless.
Ugh.
And I mean, top is like kind of whatever, and then their mid jungle actually just plays together better. So there you go. KC better than NIP. Let's go! Alright, so before we wind down, we might not have time to get to the game stuff, but chat wants you to !emilyrand.
Alright, I'm terrified of this. Let's see. I just do my full name, right?
Yeah.
All together. In the vast cosmos of the red velvet, I said dance like it's very sapphic. I like it.
Yeah, basically,
I love sapphic fanfic. Let's go.
Now, if you your name in my chat,
That's
gives
amazing.
you
I love it.
A very short, like 2 to 3 line Kaisa Belbeth fanfic. So
amazing.
There you go. All right.
I'm literally writing a lesbian sci-fi story, so
there you go. Yeah. Nice.
It's not about Belbeth and Kaisa.
It's not about Belbeth and Kaisa.
So I know I've disappointed Mirq immensely.
Exactly.
Need to randomize which lesbians it does.
Well, talk to Mirq. Mirq is the keeper of the bots. So,
all right. 10 minutes. I do want to ask you.
Yeah.
Because I know my take already, and I kind of said it on stream, but like on broadcast, with the nerfs to Trist and Corki, I feel like LCK in particular, because I think they go on 14-14 this week, are kind of like the casters are like, please get us out of this meta. But in LCS, all we saw still was essentially Corki, Trist, and then like other ADs mid. Do you think this is because they weren't nerfed enough and there are just too many other factors on the map? Or do you think that players are just being stubborn and playing something that they're more used to?
So I actually don't think the Tristana Corki changes like remove them from the meta. I think Trist, you have to be a little smarter about like when you're using E. Like the biggest thing for me for Trist is because you won't get the attack speed off from the Q bonus.
Yeah,
to proc the E, you can't like just throw E randomly and get the reset on. You can't just like W at people and throw E randomly and get the reset. I even kind of speculated it might make her see more play in bots because like you could see her play as a flex, and then if she has like consistent setup to get her combo, that might make her stronger. Um, or like people will play around her mid more. She might become like I think Yone. If you pick Yone and you don't play around mid, you're really griefing. So she might just be Yone status. Um, the other and then Corki, I think it's like a base HP nerf, right? Let me double check.
Yeah. Corki, between the two, Corki was the one where I was like, oh, he's definitely not going anywhere. Because that's nothing. With Trist, I was a little less sure only because I felt like people had gotten so used to just her being so spammable. And that was one of the things that made her really annoying. But I also think there are teams that just know how to play really well around Triss. The KC Dream is alive. By the way, they are sieging bot inhib turret. All of SK is dead. And they are gonna win this game. So congrats, Casey. But yeah, I think a lot of teams are really used to playing with her, and I also think that the AP jungle nerfs to most AP junglers weren't enough to take them out of the meta either. Like Brand in particular still absolutely shits damage. So it wasn't enough for me. So I feel like LCK, you're going to be really disappointed when you see that they're probably still around.
Yeah, they're probably still playing the same stuff. I mean, my other thing, the actually most significant changes that I wrote down, because I just wrote down all my stuff, was I think Lilia was actually the biggest one, and I didn't think Lilia was as good anyway. Like the E, I think damage actually matters a lot. And then I think the Hecarim buff could be useful because I think mages are still good into 80s mids and people just don't play mages. But if you're playing like Hecarim, you might see more mage plus Hecarim play because I think Hecarim is actually not bad because you can like Emax now. Before W at least. Obviously.
See if we could see it.
I think Hecarim might be interesting. And then yeah, it was pretty much it for me. I think Zyra change makes her more susceptible to invades. She'll have like slow clear. And that was already her weakness, and people weren't taking advantage of it. So I don't know. I'll probably just be disappointed when people still don't take advantage of it, but we'll see. But yeah, I didn't think it mattered that much, the patch, overall, in terms of meta. So it is what it is. Real quick before we go, someone is asking, do you guys think C9 can match TL?
TL looked pretty rough in their last series. I still think they have overall a better understanding of the map and lane assignments. I'm curious to see if C9 can do their strategy of essentially just pick winning lanes and play around them and win against TL, because I feel like TL will be pretty prepared for it. I still give the edge to TL because overall I think their macro is better. I think the biggest difference maker on the team is probably going to be JoJo, and whatever he picks potentially being able to affect their side lanes, because even when they had it was Nidalee Renekton, right? I'm thinking of for them from this past week. Am I going insane?
Yeah.
I just remember I was expecting Blabber to go topside more, kind of similar to what he did with Fudge initially, but he hasn't as much as I thought he would. And that's not a bad thing. It's just like they will pick things that I think they could really, really snowball hard with if they wanted to, and they haven't. And then additionally, their bot lane ended up getting advantages in lane where I feel like necessarily I wouldn't have expected them to in the 100 Thieves series. And I don't think they'll be able to do that against Yon in particular, but Yon and Korra is like a duo. But even if Korra ends up roaming, I think Yon is going to hold his own a bit better than Meech and Ayla. So I think that's also going to be a difference maker where you might not have Berserker Zeri coming out in as advantageous of a position as he did in that lane both times, even without there's like no significant jungle attention for a little while. So yeah, I don't think they'll be able to necessarily get the same laning advantages against TL. I think it's going to be still pretty close because I think both teams know kind of how they want to play. But I'd still give the edge to TL overall. So I mean, I'll say this on broadcast too, but probably like TL 2-1.
All right. Yeah, I think they play week after next, so we have some time before we.
Oh yeah, we have 2 weeks.
Get into.
I don't even know that.
Before we get into TLC 9. But I still favor TL. I think their map understanding is actually just still miles ahead of every other team in NA. And that's kind of what's been winning the games in general. So we'll see there. It'll be fun. I think it's like I still feel like C9's schedule is just like so ridiculous. It's so ridiculously front loaded. Or like backloaded, excuse me.
Loaded, yeah.
But
they don't have to play FlyQuest or TL until the final 2 weeks.
So we'll see how they play. It'll be very interesting. Like they literally played the worst teams in the league in the first 2 weeks. Or no, in the first 3 weeks, excuse me. But yeah, banger. All right.
Speaking of, oh man, Requiem for 100 Thieves next week.
Yeah, unlucky.
They're going the MDK route, sadly. Our two teams of rookies.
Yeah,
Kelsey.
our 2 rookie teams. Unlucky. Sad.
I am sad, actually.
Yeah, I am too.
All
right. I will. See you next week. Thanks, everyone. If you're watching on YouTube, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow us and subscribe to us on Ko-fi. We really appreciate the support. And thank you, everyone, and have a great week.